The skies over Germany belonged to the Luftwaffe. Messerschmitt fighters ruled the air. American bomber crews died by the hundreds. Every raid into Nazi territory was a bloodbath. The B-17s came, the Bf-109s came, and the bombers fell like rain. Then came the P-47 Thunderbolt, 7 tons of American iron, 8 .50 caliber machine guns, a radial engine that roared like thunder. The Luftwaffe laughed, called it fat, called it slow, called it useless in a dogfight. But P-47 pilots didn't dogfight, not at first. They did something the Luftwaffe considered cowardly, dishonorable, unsporting. They dove from altitude, fired and ran. The Germans sneered, called them cowards, ridiculed the tactic as unchivalrous, until the kills started mounting, until German aces started dying, until 3,752 Luftwaffe aircraft never came home. This is the story of the P-47 Thunderbolt, the tactic the Germans mocked, and the American pilots who rewrote air combat forever. America enters the war with bold promises. Daylight precision bombing would cripple Nazi industry. B-17 flying fortresses would pound factories into rubble. The theory was sound. The execution was catastrophic. Unescorted bombers faced slaughter. Luftwaffe fighters tore through formations. Bf-109s attacked from the front. FW-190s raked the sides. B-17s carried defensive guns but couldn't protect themselves against coordinated fighter assault. Casualty rates soared. Missions to Schweinfurt, Regensburg, and Bremen cost hundreds of aircraft and thousands of air crew. The 8th Air Force needed escorts, long-range fighters that could accompany bombers deep into Germany, protect them, fight off interceptors, bring them home. But in 1942, no such aircraft existed. The P-38 Lightning tried. Twin-engine, long-range, heavily armed. But it was complex, maintenance-intensive. Engine failures plagued operations. The P-51 Mustang would eventually solve the problem, but in 1943, it wasn't ready yet. Enter the P-47 Thunderbolt, Republic Aviation's heavyweight champion. Designed as a high-altitude interceptor, powered by the massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp radial engine, 2,000 horsepower, top speed 433 miles per hour at 30,000 feet, armed with 8 .50 caliber machine guns, total firepower 3,400 rounds per minute. The P-47 was massive, empty weight 10,000 pounds, fully loaded 17,500 pounds. Pilots called it the Jug, short for juggernaut. It was the heaviest single-engine fighter of the war. Critics said it was too heavy, too big, too clumsy for dogfighting. They were partially right.
April 1943. The first P-47 groups arrived in England. The 56th Fighter Group, the 78th Fighter Group, the 4th Fighter Group, former Eagle Squadron pilots who'd flown Spitfires and loved their nimble British fighters. They looked at the P-47 with skepticism. Colonel Hubert Zemke commanded the 56th, a tactical genius, a pragmatic leader. Zemke understood the P-47's strengths and weaknesses immediately. "We're not going to turn with Messerschmitts," he told his pilots. "We're going to use speed and altitude, dive, attack, climb, repeat." The tactic had a name: boom and zoom. It exploited the P-47's advantages while avoiding its weaknesses. The Thunderbolt couldn't turn with a Bf-109, couldn't sustain tight turns without bleeding energy. But it could dive faster than anything the Luftwaffe flew, and it could climb back to altitude using its massive engine. Early missions were learning experiences. P-47 pilots tried traditional dogfighting. They lost. German pilots with years of combat experience outmaneuvered them. The Americans returned frustrated, angry, questioning their aircraft. Zemke drilled the boom and zoom tactic relentlessly. Altitude is life. Speed is life. Never slow down in a turn fight. Hit and run, always. Some pilots resisted. They wanted to dogfight, wanted to prove American courage. Zemke was blunt. Courage without tactics is suicide. The Luftwaffe noticed the new American fighters. Initial assessments were dismissive. Intelligence reports called the P-47 heavy and cumbersome. Bf-109 pilots reported the enemy refuses decisive combat. The implication was clear. The Americans were cowards. To understand why the Luftwaffe sneered, you must understand fighter-pilot culture in 1943. Dogfighting was art. Turning combat was the test of skill. Aces like Adolf Galland, Werner Mulders, and Günter Rahl built reputations on close-quarters maneuvering. The circus of twisting fighters, each trying to get on the other's tail, was the romantic ideal of air combat. The P-47 pilots rejected this entirely. They climbed to 30,000 feet, patrolled above bomber formations, scanned the sky for enemies. When Luftwaffe fighters appeared, the Americans didn't engage horizontally. They rolled into steep dives, screamed down at 500+ miles per hour, fired devastating bursts from 8.5 cows, then pulled up, used momentum to zoom climb back to altitude. By the time the German pilot reacted, the P-47 was gone, a mile away, a mile higher. German pilots called this hit and run, dishonorable, cowardly. The Luftwaffe prided itself on chivalry. Dogfighting was combat between warriors. Diving attacks and fleeing was something else entirely. The Luftwaffe radio intercepts captured the contempt. The Americans won't fight. They run like rabbits. The propaganda machine echoed this. German newsreels portrayed Luftwaffe aces as knights of the air, American pilots as timid technicians hiding behind superior numbers. But the kill ratios told a different story. By summer 1943, P-47 groups were racking up victories. The 56th Fighter Group became the top-scoring group in Europe. The tactic worked. Boom and zoom exploited physics, energy management, gravity.
Why did it work? Physics. The P-47 weighed 17,500 pounds fully loaded. In a dive, gravity accelerated that mass to incredible speeds. German fighters, lighter, more maneuverable, couldn't match the dive speed. A Bf-109 that tried to follow a diving P-47 risked compressibility, control surface failure, or structural damage. The P-47's thick wings and robust construction handled high-speed dives. Pilots regularly exceeded 500 miles per hour in dives, speeds where Bf-109s experienced control problems. The Thunderbolt's controls stiffened but remained effective. Pilots learned to anticipate the heaviness, to plan their pullouts carefully. Firepower amplified the advantage. 8.50 caliber machine guns delivered concentrated destruction. A 2-second burst fired 113 rounds, enough to shred a Bf-109's fuselage, sever control cables, ignite fuel tanks. German pilots who survived described P-47 attacks as flying through a wall of bullets. After the attack, the P-47's powerful engine carried it back to altitude. The R-2800 produced 2,000 horsepower, more than any German fighter engine. Zoom climbs allowed the P-47 to regain the high ground, reset, and attack again. German fighters, stuck at lower altitudes, became prey. Colonel Hub Zemke became the doctrine's greatest advocate. Under his leadership, the 56th Fighter Group perfected boom and zoom tactics. Zemke was a systems thinker. He analyzed after-action reports, identified patterns, adjusted tactics. His pilots became the highest-scoring P-47 unit in the ETO. Captain Robert S. Johnson became one of the P-47's most famous aces. Johnson scored 27 victories, all in the P-47. His philosophy? Never turn with the enemy. Use speed, use altitude, kill and survive. Johnson's discipline saved his life repeatedly. Once, his P-47 absorbed catastrophic damage from an FW-190. Over 200 bullet holes, half the tail shot away. Johnson flew the crippled Thunderbolt home, testament to the aircraft's toughness. Colonel Francis Gabby Gabreski scored 28 victories in the P-47. Gabreski combined boom and zoom with patience. He stalked targets, waited for perfect setups, dove only when geometry and energy favored him. His kill-to-loss ratio was extraordinary. These men weren't reckless. They were calculators, engineers of death. They understood energy states, dive angles, and escape vectors. They turned air combat into applied physics. By late 1943, the Luftwaffe's mockery turned to concern. Experienced pilots were dying. The Americans weren't cowards, they were smart. Tactics evolved not from fear, but from ruthless efficiency. German aces adapted. Adolf Galland ordered his pilots to avoid diving engagements with P-47s. Do not chase them down, do not follow them up. Engage only on equal terms. But equal terms rarely existed. The Americans controlled altitude. They dictated engagements. Some Luftwaffe pilots tried copying the tactic, but their aircraft weren't built for it. The Bf-109's lighter frame couldn't handle sustained high-speed dives. The FW-190 was better, but still lacked the P-47's dive performance and engine power. The strategic impact compounded. Bomber losses declined. With effective fighter escort, B-17s reached targets and returned. German industry bled. The Luftwaffe couldn't stop the raids. Attrition mounted. By 1944, Luftwaffe pilot quality plummeted. Veterans died or were reassigned. Replacements had minimal training. Green pilots facing disciplined P-47 jocks didn't survive long. The kill ratios became lopsided. Experienced American pilots racked up 5, 10, 15 kills against pilots who'd barely logged 50 hours. The P-47's versatility extended beyond air combat. Its rugged construction made it an exceptional ground attack platform. Pilots discovered they could dive bomb, strafe, destroy locomotives, trucks, airfields, and troop concentrations. Late 1943, P-47 groups began carrying bombs, 500-pounders under the wings. Combined with 8.5 cals, the Thunderbolt became a terror weapon against German ground forces. Pilots attacked trains, convoys, bridges. The Luftwaffe couldn't protect them all. Strafing runs used the same boom and zoom principles. Dive from altitude, strafe the target, pull up before ground fire became effective. The P-47's armor protected pilots. Engine cowling, armored. Cockpit, armored glass and steel plates. Pilots survived hits that would have killed them in lighter fighters. The Normandy invasion showcased the P-47's ground attack prowess. D-Day, June 6, 1944. Thunderbolts flew continuous missions, strafed German positions, destroyed vehicles, provided close air support. General Eisenhower later credited fighter bombers, especially P-47s, with enabling the breakout from Normandy. By war's end, P-47 pilots claimed 3,752 air-to-air victories in the European theater, the highest total of any Allied fighter type in Europe. The tactic the Germans mocked became the most effective aerial strategy of the war. Beyond aerial victories, P-47s destroyed thousands of ground targets, locomotives 86,000, railroad cars 6,000, motor vehicles 68,000. The Thunderbolt's ground attack record exceeded its air combat record in raw destruction. But the air victories mattered most psychologically. The Luftwaffe entered the war believing in dogfighting supremacy. German pilots trained for turning combat. The P-47 invalidated that training. American pilots who avoided dogfights weren't cowards. They were survivors, winners. The P-47 tactic represented a clash between old and new. The Luftwaffe clung to romanticized notions of aerial chivalry, knights dueling in the sky, honor, tradition. The Americans embraced industrial pragmatism, use the best tool, employ the best tactic, win. This philosophical divide extended beyond aviation. Germany's war effort was hamstrung by ideology, Hitler's interference, rigid hierarchies. The Americans were flexible, adaptive, willing to discard tradition if data suggested better methods. Boom and zoom epitomized this. It wasn't elegant, wasn't romantic, but it worked. And in war, results matter more than style. Post-war interviews with Luftwaffe veterans reveal grudging respect. Many admitted the Americans fought intelligently. The mockery faded. The kills spoke for themselves. The P-47's tactical legacy shaped Cold War doctrine. The U.S. Air Force institutionalized energy management. Fighter tactics manuals codified boom and zoom principles. The idea that superior technology combined with superior tactics defeats tradition became foundational. Modern fighter combat, BVR, beyond visual range, engagements with missiles, is the ultimate expression of boom and zoom philosophy. Engage from advantage, strike decisively, don't expose yourself unnecessarily. The P-47 pilots of 1943 would recognize the logic. The P-47 Thunderbolt itself became legendary. 15,686 built. It served in every theater. Republic Aviation's engineers created a machine that could absorb punishment, deliver devastation, and bring pilots home. No other fighter matched its combination of firepower, toughness, and versatility. Surviving P-47s fly today at air shows. The roar of the R-2800 engine still turns heads. Veterans who flew the Jug speak of it with reverence. "It saved my life" is a common refrain. The aircraft's reputation evolved from too heavy to just right. Robert Johnson's damaged P-47 became legendary. June 26, 1943. Johnson engaged F-190s over France. One got behind him, raked his aircraft with cannon fire. The canopy shattered, instruments exploded, oil sprayed the windscreen. Johnson's engine was hit, his controls damaged, but the P-47 flew. He nursed it across the channel, landed at his base. Ground crew counted 21 cannon hits and over 200 machine gun holes. The Thunderbolt had absorbed damage that would have destroyed any other fighter. Johnson walked away. Francis Gabreski's discipline defined his success. He never took unnecessary risks, analyzed every engagement, positioned carefully, attacked only when conditions favored him. His 28 victories came without recklessness. After the war, Gabreski continued flying, became a jet ace in Korea. His career spanned 2 wars and 2 generations of fighters. The principles he learned in the P-47, energy management, patience, discipline, applied to jets just as effectively. Hub Zemke's leadership created a culture of excellence. The 56th Fighter Group became the Zemke's Wolf Pack. They pioneered tactics, shared lessons, elevated each other. Zemke's emphasis on teamwork and analysis saved lives and won battles. When he was shot down and captured in 1944, his pilots continued his methods. The Wolf Pack finished the war as the top-scoring fighter group. 3,752 Luftwaffe aircraft destroyed in air combat, thousands more on the ground. The P-47 Thunderbolt accounted for nearly half of all 8th Air Force victories. The tactic the Luftwaffe called cowardly became the standard. German aces who survived learned harsh lessons. Werner Molders, one of Germany's greatest aces, died in 1941 before the P-47 arrived. But his successors faced the Thunderbolt. Many didn't survive. The old guard, trained in Spain and Poland, gave way to inexperienced replacements. The Americans, meanwhile, refined their methods, improved their aircraft, dominated the skies. By 1945, the Luftwaffe was finished. Fuel shortages grounded aircraft. Pilot losses couldn't be replaced. The Americans flew wherever they wanted. The P-47 Thunderbolt, the fighter the Germans mocked, had helped destroy the Luftwaffe. The P-47 Thunderbolt proved that tactics matter as much as technology, that intelligence defeats tradition, that survival and victory outweigh notions of honor and chivalry. The Luftwaffe called American pilots cowards for refusing to dogfight, but those cowards destroyed 3,752 German aircraft, brought home bombers, crippled German industry, won the air war. The lesson endures. War isn't about fairness, it's about winning. The P-47 pilots understood this. They used their aircraft's strengths, avoided its weaknesses, adapted, survived, triumphed. And when the guns fell silent, when the kill tallies were final, when the Luftwaffe ceased to exist, the verdict was clear. The tactic worked, the cowards won, and the mockers never came home.